Hi, everyone. This is your Black Woman CEO coach, Quanisha Green. And accompanying me, who you might hear in the background, is my 6-month-old son, Jeffrey. So he is hanging out with us. So one thing about Black Women CEO Coach community is that we have a non-traditional community. So in the sense that I'm a work from home mom. One goes to preschool and the other one hangs out here with mommy. We had some technical difficulties with our last video, so this is us officially starting the power of your story. So thank you so much for joining in. And I want to make sure that you all can hear me. So if you just give me 1 minute to make sure that our technology is working and that we're all connected here. So I see folks are joining in. If you can just say hi, let me know if you can hear me. I'm trying to connect myself from my phone to test it out here. I can't seem to see the correct window. So I hope we are in the right place. All right, good. Folks are joining. Hey, yay, they hear me. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Yay, thank you all for joining. One thing I shared, so this would be me practicing sharing part of the story, even though this is not officially part of the talk that I planned. One thing that I'm doing for Lent is that I'm giving up worry. And I was just sharing on our pre-video, because we did just, while we were waiting for the technology to restart, I shared that I feel like God is testing me. Yes, first day to start chat about our story, because I feel like God's saying, okay, well, if you're going to get up at worry, you have to trust me, right? And so since I announced that I'm giving up worry for Lent, chaos has been showing up in my life. One thing I shared in the email that went out inviting you all to this talk was that on Friday, I did a keynote at Kutztown University of Pennsylvania for the 2017 conference of the Commission on Human Diversity. And it was about social justice, sharing perspectives, and envisioning the future. And on Thursday, I was, I'm supposed to be heading to Kutztown, which is like an hour and a half away. And my babysitter, who's my best friend, my son's godmother, was supposed to come in. She got the flu. So I had to call my husband to see if he can come home from work. And so I'm driving later, and I don't really like driving at night nowadays. And I said, you know what, God, we're going to work this out. And I decided not to stress about it. And everybody got fed and bags got packed. And I got there and I had a great experience. And then another thing that I did the day before my talk. So this is a talk that I've done a couple of times. And I kept practicing and I kept messing up my introduction. It just wouldn't come out. And so someone just asked a question in the pre-session. They asked, how do you know what to share and how much to share? And we'll go more into this. But I wanted to share this part of the story is that one thing I did the day of my talk, so literally like 10 minutes before I was supposed to go on stage, is I prayed. So I am spiritual. My spirituality leads towards Christianity with its Buddhism in there and its life universal principles. So we're going to talk about spirituality today. So if you're anti that, this might not be the video for you. So I just want to put that out there. But I prayed to God and I said, God, I'm your vessel and I want you to work through me and allow the words to come that the people in the audience need to hear. Right. And so while I had my prepared keynote and I looked over my notes and I practiced, there were little ad libs here and there while I was talking because I felt in my spirit that is what needed to come out. So that's what we're talking about today. So we're not going into the mechanics of how do you share your story powerfully, right? How do you do a keynote 101? We're not talking about that. What we are talking about today is how are you connected with yourself, right? That inner game that you need to have so that the divine can work through you in service of the community that you're supposed to be served, that you will put on this earth to create for. So what do you all think about that? Us talking about the mindset and who we need to be and that inner self and confidence and sense of self-worth that we need to have so that we can show up in the world, share our story, and have it benefit others. So what do you all think about that take that we're taking for our chat today? So I would love to see your comments. as we go along. And I see I might have to open up another window. So I am checking in. So I see folks saying pictures look great. Perfect day to chat about our story. Yes, on International Women's Day, right? So what do you all think about that? Type into the chat about us not talking about the mechanics of speaking, but really talking about who it is that you need to be to share your story powerfully with the world. Oh, and I'll share some speaker tidbits. So a speaker tidbit that I learned, this is my Black Woman CEO mug, is when you're speaking or doing videos, which videos are speaking, you want to use a straw because it doesn't take your lip gloss off. So if you've ever seen speakers sipping out of a straw, that is why, because it doesn't mess up your lip makeup. So that's a tip that you all can have along the way. Because you might be like, why is she drinking out of a mug with a straw? And I have some sinus stuff going on, so I will be sipping water as we come. So someone said, yes, it comes down to the belief in yourself. Yes, it definitely does. So in order for you to do that, though, right, in order for you to really feel confident in who you are so that you can actually share your story and speak, you have to get clear of the junk, right? And those junks that you have learned are called limiting beliefs, right? Because those limiting beliefs are actually opposing the truth of who you really are. Another thing that comes up with these limiting beliefs are self-doubt. And so this is how self-doubt shows up, and this is how it prevents you from sharing your story. So if anything resonates with you, just type yes into the chat, right? And if it really resonates with you, say yes. You know that, YAASSSSS, so that I know what's resonating with you. I'm a big call and response person. I like to check in. So, when I'm usually doing live talks, I raise my hand and ask people to raise their hand and all these things like that. Or I can at least see the head nods, and I can't see that online. So if something's resonating with you, just take yes. And if it's really like, girl, you need to get out my business, put yes. Okay, that's what we want to do. So this is how self-doubt can show up in your business around you sharing your story. So have you ever said to yourself, who am I to do XYZ, right? Who am I to be a speaker? Who am I to be a coach? Who am I to be a trainer? Who am I to be a photographer, right? Who am I to go out and do this work that I feel called to do? So if that resonates with you, just type yes or yes into the chat if that is a conversation you have with yourself. Okay, I see the yeses are coming. And someone says, yes, limiting beliefs can be tremendous stumbling blocks. And you know what? One thing is I don't have to read all the comments because it shows up with BeLive TV. So you all who are viewing will see that, right? So yes. Another way that self-doubt comes up is you may have thought, and this was a thought that I had when I started my business, is nobody cares what I have to say. Nobody cares what I have to say. I had one of my clients recently. She had 20 years of experience in her field. It was event planning, and she was creating this new service, and she wasn't implementing. She wasn't doing the work. And I was like, what's going on? And she was like, I'm actually struggling with this thought that nobody cares what I have to say. Nobody cares what I have to say. And so we had to work on that, right? So you can have all these credentials, but still think nobody cares what I have to say. So if that one resonated with you, put yes or yes, right? If that's something that's really a thought that's reoccurring for you. And then we struggle with uncertainty that keeps us from showing up in our business, right? And this impacts our business success. And the way that shows up is the question that you may be asking yourself is, will people pay me for what I want to do? Will people really pay me for this? Have you ever thought that? Will people really pay me for this, to share my story, to be a speaker, a trainer, or a coach, or a service provider, or pay me to buy my products, right? Even if I want to create something that's a passive product or recording of anything that I do. Oh, I got the yes is coming in, the YAASSS, right? Another way that uncertainty can come up is, will I say the right thing? And in the intro, I just talked about that, right? Will I say the right thing? So if that resonates with you, type yes, if that is something that come up. Will I say the right thing? So as you can see, all these limiting beliefs are some common barriers to success in us actually using our story in service of our business, right? And of course, there's skills around, like I said, delivering the keynotes, but before you learn, or actually before you actually go ahead and implement, some of you may have learned the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of speaking and writing an effective speech. But if you aren't showing up to doing it, the issue is not your skill. The issue is your confidence. Your confidence in yourself. Your confidence in yourself. And so you may be asking, right? Or what I would like you to get to the place is of asking yourself is, do you feel you are valuable? And one reason, so some of the questions are not really rhetorical. I would like you to answer in the comments. And that's why I'm doing this in our Black Women CEO Facebook group versus the page, because I want you to actually feel that this is a safe space in the online sanctuary. So what's said here stays here. The videos can't be shared. So this is actually us actually having a private fireside conversation, although we're in my kitchen that way. So ask yourself, do I feel valuable? And the next question I have for you is, do I feel worthy? Do I feel worthy? And let us bear witness with you and hold space with you by you typing your answer into the chat. Great. Lauren said, I've learned through my faith that I'm tremendously valuable. Awesome. And Lauren, this might not be your challenge, but I want to share this for the group, is that we can believe one thing or been taught one thing or think one thing, but our actions will show us what we're really in alignment with, right? What really is truly showing up for us. And so I want to share some ways that you can actually start to identify that, to see if what you've been taught or what you think, right? Because some of you might be like, I have a great sense of self-esteem. I'm confident. And I believe that's true. But are you actually showing up in your business believing that you are worthy, you have nothing to prove, that you are valuable, and that people are seeking and praying for what you uniquely have to offer? So you're going to get out there, right? Because then the action would be, if you actually believe that, you would be out there on a regular basis, sharing your story on stage, on Facebook Lives like this, emails to your community, right? So those are some of the things that if you actually believe that, the actions will follow, right? So here's a question I want you to ask yourself. Someone said, yes, I believe I'm valuable, but sometimes my actions show otherwise. Okay, that's good. Now you're seeing this discrepancy in the action. So I want you to ask yourself to start getting at this self-worth, self-esteem. And we'll talk about self-worth and self-esteem, money in a second, or value. But I want you to ask yourself, how much would you pay you for your services? How much would you pay you for your services? And I know sometimes money's taboo, so if you don't want to write this in the chat, I definitely understand. So write it to yourself. How much would you pay you for your services? Not what you want to get work, but how much would you actually pay you today for your services? The next question I want you to answer is, how much do you want to get paid? How much do you want to get paid for your services? So the first question is, how much would you pay you for your services? The second question is, how much do you want to get paid for your services? And the third question finally is, how much are you actually charging for your services, for folks to invest in working with you? And now the question I want you to answer in the chat is, are there discrepancies between these different figures? Are there discrepancies between these different figures? So the three figures once again are, how much would you pay you for your services? How much do you want to get paid for your services? And the third question is, how much are you actually charging for your services? And the question I would like you to answer in the chat, and you can just say, yes, there's a discrepancy, or nope, everything's in alignment, is, are there discrepancies between those three figures? Let's see, I'm waiting for folks to answer. We have a number of folks here on the chat. So for those who are just jumping on, 3 questions I want you to answer, because we're trying to see like where your self-worth and value is, like truly, right? That how it's showing up in your results are how much would you pay you for your services right now? How much are you actually charging for your services? And then the third question is I'm sorry, that was the third question. The second question is how much do you want to get paid for your services? And the third question is how much are you actually charging? So if there's a discrepancy, and if you don't want to write the figure, that's fine, but you can say yes, it's a discrepancy. If you're all in alignment, say, girl, I'm in alignment. So I'm going to the chat here. So someone said I would pay myself $300. I like people to pay $197. I'm charging $47 to $99. Okay. I'm just glad to be past that point where I don't think I should be. Oh, someone said, I know I'm worthy to be paid. I'm not charging my worth. Okay, so that came up. And Carla just typed yes. So yes, that there's a discrepancy. Okay. So if you have a discrepancy, right, then that means that you are not fully standing in your story, right? The who you are, the what you do, and you're not asking for your worth, right? So that's why I said that we can believe things, we could have been taught things, but our actions are going to show something totally different. Our results will show something totally different if there isn't truly an alignment there, right? So you charging more is not about what other people can afford. It's not about what your clients can afford. It's about you, this internal conversation that you have, and you believing in yourself, being confident in yourself so that you can really stand powerfully in sharing who you are with the world, letting them know what you do and the results you get so that you can have the business success that you desire. Do you all see that connection? If you see that connection, type yes. And I'm going to give my son his pacifier. Hi, he's jumping around. That's what you hear, the bouncer. So if you see that connection, I don't want to move forward until we're all on the same page if you can see that connection. All right, folks are typing yes. So I wanted to make that clear that business success, of course, we have to learn skills. You have to learn how to market and all some of the how-to, right? But you won't go and do those things, right? I can actually do a whole training on pricing and you won't follow it if you don't believe that you are actually valuable, right? And so this is something I learned from my mentor that I want to share with you. Well, it's my take and her take together. So one of the mistakes that we make as Black women entrepreneurs is that we don't ask for what we're worth, right? So that's, in order to have business success, one, you have to ask, right? You have to make the offer. You have to ask for the cash, right? But you have to ask what you're worth. You have to see yourself as a high valued entrepreneur, an asset. And one of my mentors who I learned this from, and that this is something that can be a barrier to success, is Dr. Venus Opal Reese. Many of you know her, Black woman millionaire. And she talks about two aspects of money, right? There's self-esteem money and there's self-worth money. So self-esteem money says it's about what I would pay me based on my perceived values. So that's why I asked you that question. And many of us, our past has impacted how we perceived ourselves, right? So you might think back to when you're a little girl, maybe somebody said you weren't loved or your mother didn't hug you the right way. And this is my story, right? So I'm not even making fun of you. Like my mother, I was like 6 years old. I realized my mother stopped hugging me. And I created this belief that I'm unlovable. Right? Some of you may have different experience, might not be as drastic as mine. You know, it could have been a boyfriend who rejected you or didn't show up the way he wanted to, right? So we have this path that influences how we think about ourselves. And so one of the reasons I asked you, what would you pay you, is that gives you an indication of what your self-esteem money is, right? Is that perception. And sometimes it shows up as entrepreneurs when we think about what would our clients pay us, right? What does she think I'm worth? Once again, that goes back to you interpreting your perceived value based on how you think about yourself, right? So that's how that self-esteem money comes in, right? Then we have self-worth money. Self-worth money is all about taking the emotions out of your pricing process and saying, What are my skills, my learned experiences, what I do, and the results that I get? What is that worth in the marketplace? What is that worth in the marketplace? Right? That's not about what you think about yourself. It's about you saying, what is that worth in the marketplace? Okay, I'm just looking at this comment. Okay, so we'll talk about people assuming your services should be free because of either what you do or the orientation that you take. So we'll definitely talk about that, Lauren. So do you all see the difference between self-esteem money and self-worth money? Right. And once again, this connects back to your story, how you are thinking and talking about yourself, the story that you created about yourself in general, but particularly about yourself as an entrepreneur. Excuse me. So Jeffrey's going to hang out with us. He didn't want to take his nap today. Say hello. He's making his debut. And this is why this is a chat and not a formal webinar, because the baby's here. Right? So do you all see the difference between self-esteem money and self-worth money? So I just want to check in. So you can type yes in the chat. And how your story, once again, is the root of which orientation you take in pricing your services, which impacts your business success. So you all can type yes as we go along. So why is this important too? So if you don't share your story, so aside from pricing and actually what your business generates, so I believe if your business is not generating money at all, but particularly consistent money, you have an expensive hobby, right? Because it's actually costing you more, right, to be doing business activities. And some of you might not be doing all 5 core business activities, right? There might even be some misconceptions around that. It's costing you more, and you're probably not really putting yourself out there making the ads and doing revenue generating strategies, right? But in order to be an entrepreneur, actual CEO, to have a revenue generating business and to attract clients to buy from you, right, to actually become paying clients, they have to like, know, and trust you. They have to like, know, and trust you. And the only way they're going to like, know, and trust you is if you share what you know. If you share who you are, if you share your lived experiences, if you share what you learned through your training and education, they can't like, know, and trust you, right? That those features that are so important to buying, right, to becoming a paying customer, if you are not even there, if you aren't even showing up to share, because once again, you're having these limiting beliefs. You're having the self-doubt of the who am I? Nobody's going to pay me. Am I even worth this? Right? Or your business is not going to be serving you, supporting the lifestyle that you want, because you're undercharging, once again, due to these beliefs, because you actually don't believe that you are powerful. That is a story that you are telling yourself on a subconscious level. Right? So you see it in your pricing, you'll see it in your clientele, and then you'll see it in your bank account if you aren't standing powerfully in your story. So I just want to check in. Right? And asking for your self-worth money, right? And those value pricing versus your self-esteem money. So what are you all thinking about this? Is it making you think? You know, have you heard this before? You're like, oh, this is new insights. Like, I just want to check in. So what's resonating with you from the things that I said before we move on to the pieces? What's resonating with you? So I see you all are there. What's resonating with you? Let me hear those aha moments. Are you making some new decisions about how you want to go forward in your business and doing all this work? If you're like, I'm processing, just type I'm processing. I'm taking it in, Quanisha. Okay, so a question came in. How do you get comfortable with zero for a while if you lose a client because you're raising prices? So there are a few ways to get comfortable with the raising prices. And once again, it goes to the self-talk, right? The story of who you are for yourself, right? So one thing you can say is that I am enough for the person who needs me. My clients pay what I'm worth or what I feel that I'm worth. My business supports my desired life and my needs, right? Because that pricing hopefully came from you figuring out like, this is what I need to afford my lifestyle, right? And also knowing this is actually going into just business how to that for every 10 people, right? There will say there's 10 people in the room. Many of the statistics show that often the conversion rate is like 1 to 2%. So of 10 people, 8 of those are going to be a no and 2 of those are going to be a yes. So once you actually believe that you're worthy, you're valuable, that you're pricing based on your worth in the marketplace and the lifestyle and desire that you want, if you get a no, you know that's just one of the no's, right? And that the right person will be seeking you out for your services, people who really need what you do, who understand the value that you offer and are ready to invest in your services. What do you think about that, Alexandria? How did that resonate with you? And this goes to the question that we had above. So someone said, working with nonprofits, I typically think of price scaling. Clearly that doesn't work long-term. It doesn't work long-term. And nonprofits, I think we also have this idea that nonprofits won't pay. and we'll talk about this in a second, how to actually start getting paid for your speaking, training, and coaching. And nonprofits do pay. They do pay well, right, for the services. And it still is about positioning the person. Of course, you can negotiate because some people do have a limited budget. But they do have money. Not all nonprofits are struggling and poor. And even then, I worked for a struggling poor social justice organization. And when we wanted a consultant, we paid them. We went to funders and we got the money and we did all these things to pay this person. So I apologize once again, everyone, for my Jeffrey. He didn't want to nurse and go to sleep. So he's just like all over the place right now. Right? All in mommy stuff. So I'm trying to multitask here, mompreneur, as we go. So, and this goes to, I think it was, Lauren, who asked about, she says, as a Christian, I desire to incorporate a faith-affirming foundation in my services. However, someone said he wants to participate. He does. However, I have discovered that when I share this, others assume my services should be free as a ministry or at a minimum cost. How should I overcome that? And once again, so the reason why I want to come back to this is that this goes again to the question of you standing on your prices and values, right? Why should it be free when you have invested in your education? Why should it be free when you're giving valuable services that are going to transform people's lives, right? If you choose to do it on an honorarium, right, a reduced rate, if you choose to do it for free, and there's different conversations you can have around that, that's your choice. But in churches and nonprofits, we pay people. You pay your preacher, right, with your tithes and offerings. There's paid church staff. And I have a CEO sister who she's doing 2 conferences with churches. And for both of these 4-hour speaking gigs, she got paid I think it was $12,000, right? So once again, there are churches who will pay you for your services, right? So if someone doesn't value you, that should not change the conversation you have about yourself or your business. It just means that that is not the ideal client for you, because your ideal client is someone who can pay you. Do you all see that? Let me know. Type yes or yes if you see that. There will be no's in your business. There will be people who come to you who are not in alignment with who you are. There will be people who will come to you, right, to share your story, to understand your training or speaking or all these other stuff, who won't be in alignment because maybe they can't afford it right now, right? There are many reasons why people say no. Sometimes it's just a not right now. But one thing that happens with me, and that's happened since I started my business, in my strategy sessions, I may say share my program, and if someone says, "Oh, I can't afford it right now," but one thing they say is, "But I see the value." But I see the value. That's a very different conversation than, "Oh, you're charging too much." If I was getting a lot of that, that would tell me I am not marketing to the right people. I am not putting myself and sharing my story, what I do, what I know, my messaging in front of the right people, because they don't even see me as valuable. And that would even be another layer of indication that I need to go check my own thoughts and beliefs if I'm attracting people who are saying I'm not valuable. Because we attract actually the energy that we're putting out. People that come and say things to us are often just a mirror of ourselves. So if people are coming to you often and say, "Oh, I don't know that that's worth it," you are likely thinking, "My program or myself, I'm not worth it." What do you all think about that? Do you see that? And some of you even said through the exercises that we just did that you are having that internal conversation with yourself. That is the story that you are telling yourself. And I'll scroll down to the comments. So folks will say, "Okay, I'm hearing you." Okay, I think I missed Joanne's comment here. So Joanne said, "I understand that last year I spoke all over the UK at churches and most did not pay and the rest took ages to reimburse my expenses. There is definitely a mentality that we should do it for free if it's a church. I learned the hard way," right? And there are some processes to make sure that, one, you get paid first and that people showing up correctly to pay you on time. But once again, that goes to you valuing the story you're telling yourself is that I am valuable. So I ask for a deposit. I am valuable. So when someone approaches me for a speaking engagement, so now we're going into the part on how to get paid as a speaker, trainer, coach, or just a service provider, or you can even say products if that's what you do. The way you get paid is that you have to ask. And you have to be confident and firm in what you're asking. So even if you're having some shaky confidence around your pricing, like someone shared that like they really think they should be getting paid $300, but they've been asking for $99, then stand firm on your $99 for now, right? Until you increase your confidence to get to the $300. But if someone comes and even says like, "Oh, I don't know if that's even worth $99, that's not your problem. That's their problem. Right? So the first thing we have to do to get paid for our story, right? Sharing our story, our knowledge, our lived experiences in service of our ideal clients, right? First, we have to show up. And the second thing is to get paid, right? We have to ask. We have to ask. So someone said I had to work out my money story, i.e. issues around money. I'm reading the comments. So I'm in a new transplant area from South Carolina, to Cali. How do I position myself to make some noise that I'm here ready to serve and get paid? So all these things, right? Putting yourself out there is about you feeling confident in your story. Do you feel confident enough that, one, your story is valuable and that people want to hear it? Right? Because then you'll do the marketing. Right? You would do the marketing. You would show up on Facebook Lives. You would connect with organizations that you feel are your ideal client. You will send emails to speaker coordinators to say, "Are you looking for speakers?" Right? Guest bloggers in the area. You would write them saying, "Hey, I read your blog. I love it. Here are 3 ideas. Can I be a guest blogger?" Right? And then once again, when these invitations come back, you would do the ask. You would do the formal ask. So if somebody wants to work with you, right, after you gauge that they're a fit, and you would say, "Well, this is the investment for my services," right? If it's a speaking or a church, if it's an organization and they're asking you to speak, whether it's a panel or a keynote, whatever it is, you can say, "What is the budget for that?" Right? What is it, like I did with my keynote? We connected after another keynote. He wanted me to talk. I said, "Well, let's schedule a connection call," because I wanted to know what about me resonated with this organization. Of course, like what they're looking for the topic of the conference. And then my somewhat closing question was, "Well, what is the budget that you have in mind for your keynote speaker?" I knew the price I had in my mind for what I do my speaking engagement for. And then we had a conversation, but I had to ask. If you do not ask, it will not be clear to people that you are seeking compensation for your services. So what do you all think about that? You have to ask. You have to make it clear. And this is actually how I started in entrepreneurship. I was being asked all the time because of my role in my job as a co-executive director, leading a big educational advocacy. I was asked to sit on panels, to do talks, and do all these other things, and travel around the country to do it. My expenses and stuff was being paid for. And then my husband was upset with me. He was my fiance at the time one day, and he was like, you traveling so much is a strain on my family. Are they paying you for this? And I was like, I was like, many of us are honored just to be asked, right? But once again, that's a self-worth conversation. I felt so unworthy about myself, right? In the sense that someone asking me to talk, do whatever, made my confidence go up. It made me feel worthy. Like, oh, well, they just want me to show up and share what I'm doing. Like, that made me feel like, wow, somebody likes me, right? Like, even though that wasn't like a very present conversation, that actually is, when you analyze it, the conversation, because I had self-worth issues, people asking me to show up in these capacities stroked my ego, right? It made me feel good about myself. Does anyone else have that experience, right? You kind of get a little boost like, oh my gosh, they want to ask me to talk. And then when I realized what he said, I was like, this is a strain in our family. People get paid to do this. I sought out a training program to help me learn how to do it. And the number one thing that training program said is, you have to make it clear that you want to get paid. And the one question you can ask, I'm giving you a question that I paid $300 for. There was a lot of other things in the training, but it's a $300 worth question, right? Actually, more is, what is the budget for that? What is the budget for that? And my very next speaking opportunity, I asked that question, and I was paid $1,500 to do a keynote for a girls' conference in California for their school district and have my expenses paid. And I knew how to ask in a way that I got a deposit for 50% so that I could buy my airfare. So it wasn't still coming out of my pocket and my family's house. So now this opportunity was actually paying for itself, even though, I was going to get reimbursed for it back, but it paid for itself. And that's when I began to see like, there's something to this. Right. So one, to show up and do the talk, I had to believe that somebody cares what I have to say. Right. So that's that power of my story that I know. And then second is, I'm worth being paid for sharing my story. And I'm going to ask the question. Now, so Angie says here, yes, I travel 3.5 hours to blog about celebrities, and I do it for free because I want to be immersed in the environment. If you want to do that, that's totally fine. We have hobbies, we have interests, we do things, we may accept invitations, and we might get compensated in other ways, right? I'm so sorry, this little boy. I think now he wants to nurse. No, he's sleeping. Okay. Okay, so doing things for free, and this would be the last piece on, before we get into how to be more confident, because I do want to be mindful of your time. Everything doesn't have to be a business endeavor that you're passionate about, right? So if you enjoy going to blog about celebrities and that's a hobby, then let it be a hobby. Now, even if you look at the IRS definition, right? Can you write it off? Is it really, are you using this for business, or are you using it for fun and pleasure? Right? Because if you're not really going there to get leads, to make business connections, to then follow up with people, that's different, right? But if you want to get paid for these things, then ask the question, hey, well, what is the budget for bloggers to come and cover your event? Right? When you decide to do something free, it has to be there's another benefit, right? So maybe you're getting in front of your ideal clients. Maybe, so when I say either free or pay to play, right? Maybe you paying to speak or you paying all this to be there is going to connect you with an organization that's going to add some social proof, right? So many of you may have heard a lot of these different speaking conferences, you have to pay to speak at some of them. Right? But say it's the Power Networking Conference, say it's Essence Festival, right? that is basically how I see that payment, as this is a marketing expense, right? Instead of me investing in Facebook ads, I'm going to pay to maybe speak, right? Or show up at this event because it's putting me in front of my ideal audience, or it's elevating me in my business, right? Or it's putting me on a platform. So if you are doing something for free or low cost, or you're negotiating your rates, make sure that there's another benefit to that. Right? If there's no other benefit, if it's like everyday Joe Smo organization and, they don't want to pay you, or they're like, oh, we can only pay half, maybe don't do it. All right. Or you're making that decision, because if you don't make it a conscious decision, you're going to have resentment. You're going to feel slighted. And then once again, you'll only be in that space where you're attracting more of that. So what do you all think about that? One, asking the question, right? Particularly with speaking, for speaking, training, coaching, particularly what's the budget for that, right? And asking for the money, right? And having a budget in mind having a investment figure in mind that you want to be paid. And then if you are willing to negotiate or do it for free, it's a conscious choice that you're making, because there are other factors that you feel will be benefiting you in your business. So she said, no, I want to get paid, but I don't know how to ask for that when I really want to do it. Well, I just gave you the question. What is the budget for that? What is the budget for that? And you can do that in various variations. Is there a budget set aside to bring press into the event and to cover it? Someone is being a cranky puss. So someone said, yes, it's important to make it a conscious decision. Yes, I agree. If you don't ask, we don't get. We teach people how to treat us. Exactly. Right. And you can take this theory, right, or this approach into all your other relationships, right? In your marriage, in your romantic relationship, in your relationship with your kids, right? If we don't ask, we don't get. Right. And once again, we teach people how to treat us. So once you see yourself as valuable and worthy, you'll actually start asking to be valued and worthy in various ways in all aspects of your life. Right. So not just in your business, if you're struggling, right, if the results and the signs aren't really there, then you need to start recreating your story, right, and standing in the power of your story. So how do we do that, right? How do we actually have more confidence in who we are and what we do, so that, particularly in our business, because we're talking about Black Woman CEO, right, that we show up and we make the ask and we do what we need to do? The first way you do that is you have to heal. You have to heal. And there's various lessons to this. So one, you need to heal the internal conversations that you're having to actually believe that people will pay you for what you do, what you have to say, what you offer, right? It's funny that people care what you have to say, right? And the who am I is, who am I not to do this work? And one way that I got challenged on this, that I actually challenged myself to start healing, was I had a mentor tell me when I was like, I don't know if nobody cares what I have to say. She said, why are you being stingy? Why are you being stingy? You have this lifetime of experience. You have all these trainings and years of education, studying this and how to help people and move them and shift them. And by you not showing up, by you not standing in your story and sharing it, you are being stingy. And that shook me. That shook me because I felt called to entrepreneurship, to do the work that I do, because I heard it in my spirit to do it, right? And I have a giving spirit. My background's in social justice, right? So I value making a difference. And here was someone saying, by me not showing up to share my story, right, the lessons that I've learned, the training that I've done to help folks the way I know I can uniquely help people, that I was being stingy. So I'm telling you, by you not showing up consistently, you are being stingy. By you not asking for what you're worth, it's almost like you're slapping God in the face of saying he made a mistake, or he or she, depending on your orientation, that God made a mistake. That God gave you a vision, but God wouldn't give you the provision to make that vision a reality. Right? That God is not going to meet your needs. So you're being stingy, and you're calling God a liar. You're saying God made a mistake with choosing you by you not actually standing powerfully in your story, showing up and showing out, and actually being asked to be compensated for the value that you uniquely offer to the world. So that is what you have to heal in order to get more confidence to actually start walking powerfully in your story. That's the first aspect of it. Someone said, nice reframing. The second aspect of the healing, so part B of it is hard for us to share what we haven't processed and healed from. So if you're on our email list, the email that I sent out inviting you to this talk, and the way I start my keynotes, and of course it depends on the topic, but the keynote that I did on Friday is I shared that when I was 8 years old, I wrote in my second grade journal that I wanted to jump out the window and take the dog with me. That was the first time I've had a suicidal thought. You can say I had a plan, right? Because here I was writing it. And in starting this business, one of the stories that I shared very early on when I started the Black Women Rise movement is about in 2012, here I was again, ready to take my own life. I was sitting on the floor of my studio apartment with a bottle of Benadryl and the razor from my, your leg shaver, ready to take my own life. And I thought about a story someone recently told me about a person who committed suicide and he didn't leave a note for his family. And I said, the least thing I can do is leave a note for my family. And as I started to write, the question I wrote at the top of this blank piece of paper was, would my 3-month-old son, this is my oldest son, he's 4 now, but would my 3-month-old son be better off without me? And I wound up writing 4 pages, and that relieved this death call. But there was events transpiring in the back because early in the day I sent a text to my then fiance that tell my son, because my son was with him, he wasn't with me while this was happening. I said, tell my son that I love him. And so that worried him. And so, he called my mentors who were like my parents, my surrogate parents. And so I still winded up being committed involuntarily to the hospital. And while I was in the hospital, I asked for pen and paper again. Writing is very big for me. And the last thing I wrote while I was committed in the psych ward, excuse me, he is sleepy. He won't go to sleep. While I was committed in the psych ward, the last thing that I wrote was, I'm stronger than this. So I wrote, I'm stronger than this. And that, right, and I wasn't talking about the traditional strong Black woman strength. I said, I'm stronger than this, that I can figure this out. I can figure out how to live. And that moment actually took me to so many places, took me to getting a job created for me, promoted, took me to having these challenges as a Black woman executive, took me to having these experiences with Black women who were coming up to me, took me to changing my thesis, right? It was these pivotal moments. And I've shared the story in different ways. And that is why 1,000 women signed up to be part of the Black Women Rise movement in 6 days, is because I shared my story. How do I know this? They tell me it all the time in strategy sessions. You sharing your story, right? You creating this platform encouraged me to XYZ, maybe acknowledge some aspect of their story. But I'm sharing this all with you in that I had to heal from that experience, right? So this was 2012. I started doing the entrepreneurship stuff in 2013. And then I still realized I had a self-worth issue. So going into 2013, 2014, and I made a decision in a course that was on self-worth around entrepreneurship that I would never attempt to take my life again. And it was that healing that I actually felt that I can actually tell this story in service of other women and helping them to show up for themselves, to start redefining strength, to start taking charge of their lives, and now to start taking charge of your business. Because that goes to the importance of the internal work. I'm sorry. This little, he's tired. Look, mommy's on live video and you're not cooperating. So I hope you can see, like, in order to stand powerfully in your story, it's hard to talk about things that we haven't healed from. And you actually would be doing a disservice to people if you haven't healed, if you haven't seen the lessons, if you haven't seen the connection in service of your ideal clients. So if you have things that you still need to work out, it doesn't mean you can't be active in your business and market, but there may be stories that are of yours that could be in service of your business, right? And helping you get out there that you have to heal, right? And many of you are in business, I know, because you're saying you have clients, you're offering services. But if you haven't healed these inner conversations, you're not going to get the results that you're seeking. That's why there are those discrepancies between the things that we talked about, between what you would pay you, what you're asking your clients to pay you, and actually what you want to get paid. So you can do the healing work while you're in business. And so you'll start to see different results. But there are certain stories that you have that would be in service of your clients and making a point or sharing a message, right? Building that like, know, and trust factor that you may not be ready to share, and it will be a disservice to them if you haven't healed from it. So you got to heal. So someone said, you have a story with a beginning. And Carla, I think your sentence got cut off. Right? And I wonder if you're saying I have a story with a beginning and an end. And to me, it isn't quite a beginning and an end. There's these milestone points along the way because I'm still doing this inner work. I'm still like, I had a hypnotherapy session. I hired a hypnotherapist because there's still ways of the little girl in me who experienced trauma because my mother was on drugs and all this other stuff. She is showing up in the way I think about myself that's impacting my business. It's impacting me showing up sometimes. It impacts me thinking I'm worthy, that people are going to pay. Like I just had this conversation with my hypnotherapist last night, right? So there are layers to this. You're going to hit, like I said, you'll see it in your results, right? So I feel like I do high value asks, but there are mentors of mine that tell me I should be charging more. And I'm like, oh, are people really going to pay me that? Right? It's the very same thought. It's the very same thought. But it's a very different thought than it was when I started my business. And I didn't think people would pay me anything. I'm so sorry, everyone. And it's a very different thought now when I'm like, oh, how do I go from 3K to 5K, right? Or to hit that 6-figure mark, right? There's different levels of the conversation. So you can still be on your journey. So another way to think about this too is, say to the scale from 1 to 10, say the transformation you provide, and this can even be your path, you're trying to get to 10. But there are people who are at 0 and you're at 4 or 5, right? You can help them get to 4 or 5 in the journey. You don't have to be at 10 to begin to help people and offer a paid service. Okay, he's taking the bottle. This would be an interesting video for those who are watching the replay. So, do you see that? That people still need help along the way on a continuum to transformation, whatever the ultimate transformation is you want to provide. And you yourself don't have to be at 10. You can be at 4 or 5 and help the people who are at 0 and 1. But that still goes back to what we said in that belief that I am worthy. People are willing to pay me to help them get from 0 to 4, right? Even knowing that you're actively working yourself to get to 10. So that's how that works. So healing, got to heal. The second thing is to increase the 3 steps to feel more confident in sharing your story is you have to remember who you are. And we kind of talked about that all throughout, right? You are uniquely called to do this work, right? And this work that you want to do that you don't need credentials for, right? I have a master's in corporate and master life coaching and a master's in social work, but my story is still the same no matter what my credentials are, right? I could have just did independent study of some of the things I learned in my formal coaching certification program. But I know who I am, and you need to know who you are. My story is still the same. My story is still the same. Of course, I want you to invest in your skills and education, but your lived experiences and the results that you can get for others, the results that you have gotten for others is enough, So you have to remember who you are. And for those who do have a spiritual attunement, even if it's not Christianity, this is experienced in multiple spiritual texts, is God has called people who didn't have credentials, right? Think of our disciples. This is why he needed to take a nap. So God has called people who didn't have formal credentials. So you can do this work. You don't have to have certain credentials, right? You can be a coach, you can be a trainer, you can be a speaker. There are natural gifts that we have. So you have to remember who you are and you have to stand in that so that you make the ask and that you show up. Credentials can enhance credibility, but one of the challenges that we have as women, particularly in the Black women, is that we keep seeking credentials so that we can feel worthy. So what I'm telling you is that you don't need more credentials to feel worthy. You may not need more credentials to do the work that you want to do. There are lots of coaches out there who don't have coaching certifications, right? You may be able to help someone be a better parent and you never went and got a psychology degree, or you never took a parent certification course. You know from your lived experiences, and maybe because people have commented on it, the results that you've gotten with your own kids or for other people, that what you do is worthy. And that is enough to start a business. That is enough to ask people to pay and compensate you. I'm so sorry, everyone. Okay. 1 second. We're going to have a real mom moment here where I'm going to nurse the baby on live video. Yay, breastfeeding. Because I believe he wants comfort. So that's how mompreneurs handle business, and we get it done, right? So that's, I got the yes is coming in. So that's why, like one of the reasons I got my coaching certification wasn't for credibility, is I have a master's in social work. Of course, I was focused in the MAPO program, which is community practice and policy. And of course, our first year, everyone's taught like basic clinical practices, but I wanted to learn effective ways to do coaching. And so I took my coaching certification that's still honed in on Black women in service of knowing the greater thing that I wanted to do, and I wanted a certain skill set. I didn't believe it would make me more credible, right? And many people who are coming to me, some people don't even read my bio when they're exploring working with me. They're like, oh, I read your blog post. And when you see the About Me page, I don't even mention my credential. Like, it's a link to LinkedIn if you want to see it. But people will resonate with you because of your results, because they believe that you can help them. Right. So I displayed that through my information, and my coaching certification, it was really helpful. I did get a lot of good skill sets from it. But what I write about or learning how to share my story or using my story in service of what I know about Black women didn't come from my coaching certification. Right. And it doesn't necessarily make me feel more confident in what I do. Because some of what I learned in my coaching certification was like, these are things I ask people anyway that I got through leadership training and doing all these other things. So is training important? Yes. Your skill set as an entrepreneur and mastering the particular trade that you have. Yes. That's one of the foundations of being a professional and a CEO. But do you necessarily need credentials? Not so. Many of you are on this line, and I know you're highly educated. You have degrees. Some of you are doctorates, but it can be a crutch. It can be a crutch because you keep thinking you have to seek. So I'll get out there once I do this. I'll get out there once I do that. And you don't need it. If you really get in touch with who you are and the results that you provide, and you may have been doing these results for free, those count too. If you've been getting people results for free, those count too. But once again, it goes back to that story you're telling yourself that you are enough. You don't have anything to prove to anybody. And you can ask to get compensated for the services that you've been providing to people for free or at low cost. And you don't need a credential to do that. Now, depending on your field, right, if you want to be a tax accountant, I think there's certain credentials you may have to get. If you want to be a tax coach, financial coach, not necessarily, right? So there are some fields, like if I want to be a licensed social worker, I have to have my master's, right? I have to go do my test. Right? There are certain fields that are going to require certain things, but to speak about your experience, to share the lessons in service of your ideal clients at a conference, you don't need credentials for that. Right? Think about some of the conferences, shows that you watch, people that you may have resonated with, or videos you even watched on Facebook. Do all those people have credentials? And look, some of these people are making millions of dollars. because they can get the result that their ideal client is looking for. But it all stands in your story, feeling confident in who you are, that internal story that you're telling yourself, right? That's the power of it. It allows you to show up confidently in what you do. Someone saying, yes, again, aha, there it is. It's the results that matter. Yes, it's the results that matter, the transformation that you provide. And the very last thing, the last step that you all can do to feel more confident is you have to stand in your expertise. And that goes along with what I just said. Women and folks of color, and so now as Black women, we have this intersection of them, right? Being Black and a woman. We often do not claim our expertise. Right? We are the most highly educated group in the United States. I think college enrollment was like based on the census. Yet we are the least heard in public discourse. And this is a study that was done in a report that came out of the Op-Ed Project. And the whole thing is getting more women to do op-ed pieces, right? To have conversations in public discourse, right? And women and minorities, and like I said, as Black women, we have that intersection. We don't actually write enough think pieces. We are often not sought out as thought leaders on, you can say like CNN and all these major platforms or general. And then for Black women, you know, we've seen this proliferation of hair blogs and all these other things, but there's so many other topics that exist, obviously, but we're not showing up as experts in them. And it all starts with just saying, I'm an expert. I have an expertise. So ask yourself, are you an expert? Will you claim expert status? And so in the chat right now, I want you to write, I'm an expert in, and write your expertise. What are you uniquely qualified to help people with? And once again, it could be what you learned at school. It could be what you're trained in. But it can also be your lived experiences. What have you helped people with? So I want you to write it in the chat. I'm an expert in, and stand in your expertise right now. So I'm an expert in helping Black women who are ready to become a rock star CEO, to get unstuck and implement profitable business strategies. I'm an expert in that. I'm an expert in a whole lot of other things too, in youth development and social justice training and training and teaching, right? I have lots of expertise, but that's the expertise that I choose to build a business around, right? Helping Black women entrepreneurs to get unstuck and implement profitable business strategies so that you can get paid to do what you love. So I want you to write it right now. I know there's you left and we're going over, so I want to wrap up soon, but I won't get off this live until you write, I'm an expert in. I want you to finish that blank. Own a part of your expertise, right? I'm an expert in. Let me see what your expertise is. Let's see it, folks. I know you are there. I see you all there. I see the number of people who are watching this live. I want to see the chat. I want you to stand in I'm an expertise. Some of the challenges that we don't claim expert status, that we think it's arrogant to say I'm an expert. Or we think, well, somebody else knows more. Right? Or I'm not really an expert until I get 30 years. One of the one of the challenges of women moving up into leadership is that we create all these qualifiers. Men don't do that. You will have men with less education. They could have just crossed the street, right? Had no know-how, and they'll apply for the promotion. I'm an expert, right? They've been socialized differently. So we have to deprogram our brain, right? And of course, you can show social proof, the results that you get, the results that you, even if you are your first client and you got results, you have an expertise in something. So someone said, I'm an expert in helping women who are ready to get out of their head and back into their body through the power of pleasure so that they can go for what they want in life, business, in the bedroom. Boom, drop mic. All right, I see some of you all there. Let's hear it. Thank you, Colin, for sharing that. Who else? Let's see the expertise. I'm an expert in. Let's see it. This is how I'm giving you a test right now so that you can start standing powerfully in your story. And if you're watching this replay later, I want to see the comments. I want to see the comments over the next 24 to 48 hours that says, I'm an expert in. Come on, Lauren, you were just writing. I want to see it. Come on, Lauren, who else is here? Let's see it. I'm an expert in. What are you an expert in? And if it's not worded perfectly, that's okay. What is it? If it's just one word, I'm an expert in XY, like training. I'm an expert in parenting, raising 2 boys right now and getting them to 5. I've kept them alive. What are you an expert in? Right? You don't have to be at number 10, like I said. You can be at 4 or 5, right? You can have gone from 0 to 2 even, and you create expertise. Here we go. I'm an expert in empowering single Black women to recover from failed relationships and reclaim their wholeness. 1 is a whole number. Gotta give you the snaps. All right, Lauren, drop mic. Okay, so the rest of you there, you may be lurking. I'm going to assume maybe you're at work, maybe you're back at your desk and you can't type, right? So that's the last 3. So the 3 steps to feeling more confident so that you can stand in your story are 1, to heal, 2, remember who you are, and 3, to stand in your expertise, right? Claim expert status. Say, I'm an expert in. So do you all see how business gets easier, right? Even marketing yourself can get easier once you understand who you are and what you do, and you stand powerfully in that, which I am calling all that your story. Do you see that? So type yes in the chat if you see the correlations that we made along the way, right? It's not about knowing the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of being an effective speaker. It really is about the mindset and the internal conversation you're having about yourself, who you are, your story, right? And once you start to stand powerfully in that, you'll start to see the business results, right? You'll start to see the revenue coming in. So folks are typing yes. Awesome. Awesome. And this is what I did along the way. So I shared aspects of my story. But it wasn't until I started to do the self-worth work, right? And then particularly, I started to change my story that I am a CEO of my business and started to take on CEO tasks and focus. So one of the tasks of a CEO is to drive revenue. And I started to focus on revenue generating strategies that my business shipped, that I started to make consistent income, that I started to create community, right? Right now, over the last 2 years since I've gone full-time, I've been doing part-time entrepreneurship since 2013, but I actually went full-time in my business in 2015. And particularly with the Black Women Rise movement, I've had 3,500 women who have come through our door. Right? I have replaced my full-time salary. I took, like, you can say 6 months off between a hiatus and maternity leave. So in 18 months, because of people coming to me for my value, whether it's private clients, contracts with organizations, I've generated close to about $60K in revenue. As a nonprofit co-executive director, I was being underpaid. I was making $38,000 a year. Right. So I'm giving some financial figures just to give you reference, like, right, my worth went up, and that was a compromise because I actually knew I was worth more. I tried to negotiate that and he gave me less and I just kind of settled for it. Right. And I'm getting on the road to getting to that 6-figure mark. Since January, I have generated about, I think it's close to 8K now. It was like 6K a couple of weeks ago, 8K in income and business revenue. Right. So my story isn't that I made 6 figures in 6 months, but the fact that I'm generating consistently, the fact that I've been showing up for myself and asking for my worth is a big deal to me. And I know for some of you, those figures can mean a lot because maybe you're like I am and you weren't generating a lot of money, or just the idea that I replaced my income. So even if your income is more than what I generated in my business, can you replace that on your own? Do you know how to do that? Do you feel that you can do it? What is the story you're even telling about yourself? Is that one of the reasons why you're staying in your job? Right? And I'm not saying go quit your job tomorrow, but do you believe that you have the skills, the self-worth, and the know-how, right? And the confidence, I call it clarity, confidence, and courage, to go out there and start generating money so that you can get these desires that you have, right? To work from home, to own your time, to leave that financial legacy and build that financial legacy that you want, to make the difference, to honor your calling, right? So do you see how the power of your story is that first step to getting on path to being a rockstar CEO? So if you see that connection, press yes. And I'm going to read the comments while you all are checking in. Great, Angie, thank you. She says, I'm an expert in assisting people to turn their dreams into reality. I'm an expert in transition, people, mindset from excuses to elevation. I help them break down the 3 W's. 1, what you want. 2, your weakness, false stumbling block. And 3, why you shouldn't have it. Awesome, Angie. Thank you for sharing your expertise. Thank you for standing in that. Nice. Someone said, all right, go Queen Q. And so you all are saying yes. So I'm glad you see that transition. Okay. So one thing I want to invite you all to continue to do this work. If you feel that you need support and really get it from one, to stand strongly in your story, right? But then to learn the rest of the steps that you need to know to be a rockstar CEO, to be generating consistent income in your business, I would like to invite you to consider me as a coach that can support you with that, right? So there's a 4-step system that I teach people and that I believe you need to be a rockstar CEO. The first one is a state of mind. The first step in my system is your state of mind. And I'm not talking about the normal abundance mindset. So you've probably even seen that here while we're talking. I'm really talking about you taking on the CEO mindset, right? You taking on being an expert, you standing powerfully in your story. So that's the first thing you need to have to start rocking out your business. The second thing you need to have is a strategy. You need a clear strategy that is in alignment with who you are. So who here has seen, and you probably have signed up for the Facebook ads, right? Saying, come to my webinar to learn Facebook ads. Come to my webinar to learn how to talk to people. Come to my webinar to do the, right? You seen and you signed up. Go ahead. I signed up for some of them too. But yes, if you signed up, raise your hand. Just put raise hand. Right. And so there are lots of strategies and tactics that work. But if you aren't showing up to put yourself out there, I call it the show up and show out in your business, it's likely that you may have learned a strategy that's not in alignment with who you are. And I call that learning your sweet marketing persona, right? So you need to have a clear strategy that helps you to get to the type of lifestyle that you want, right? So the state of mind and the strategy is about you mastering yourself, knowing who you are so that you can then master your business, right? So knowing the strategy that's going to help you show up consistently so then you can make the consistent income. So that's step 2. Step 3 is we start getting out into the mastering your business is you got to know the systems, right? Once again, the systems that resonate with the lifestyle that you want. Folks are raising their hand about that, the Facebook ads. But then you also want to make sure you have systems that support your strategy, the type of lifestyle that you want, and that are revenue generating, right? So that's step 3. And the last step that I walk people through is support. So these are what I call my 4 S's, right? So state of mind, strategy, systems, and the 4th one is support. From my research on Black women, leadership, our battle to exist, right? Mental health in the world, the research shows that support is a protective factor for Black women. Is a protective factor. So if you have been struggling on this walk of becoming a Black woman CEO, it could be because you don't have the support. And not just support, you don't have the accountability and support, right? So raise your hand if you're lacking accountability and you've been lacking support on this journey. Just put raise hand or you can put yes if you've been lacking that. And some of that has to do with the trust issue. Some of that has to do with us taking on that strong Black woman mentality and or practice that we've been socializing because you've probably been doing it all yourself the whole time, right? Some of you might have been burnt by previous coaches or mentors or courses, and you're like, I don't want to ask anybody for help, right? But not asking for support and not building a team of support will be a bottleneck to your business. Like I just said, I have a hypnotherapist. She's specializing in coaching, right? She's now part of you can say my 4th coach. I have another coach now that I'm working with on business sales and systems and marketing, right? That's after I joined a year-long mastermind a year ago, right? I have this firm belief that in order to invest in myself, I have to invest in others, or I invest in others in order to invest in myself, because one thing no one can ever take away from me is my skill. Now, will I stop at some point? Yes, right? But that's me analyzing where are the holes in my business so that I can have support. Because I know when I depend on myself, my results start to stagnate because there's holes that I'm not realizing. Right? So that's not me pitching that you have to pick me for support. I hope you consider me. But knowing that you can't do this entrepreneurship journey alone. right? And we can have accountability in different ways. We can have CEO friends, we can have accountability partners, we can be in Facebook groups, you can be in masterminds. But I have found that I tend to show up better when I'm paying for support. That's me. That's how I show up accountability, because I'm one of those people, I like to get the most out of my dollars, right? Has anyone else had that experience that like when you pay for something, you show up and you do it? I just paid for a fitness challenge. I'm on day 3. I am showing up and doing my 30 minutes a day, right, of these videos. So I know that I need structured, and also your friends will be busy, right? When you might have a question about your business. But when you have a coach, whether you're in a mastermind or private coaching, right? They have to answer your questions because you're paying for it, right? So one thing that I did to foster this last step of support is that I actually switched my programs in the Black Women CEO community from being individual coaching. I still offer it, but I only used to do individual coaching, to a place where we have community, because I know community is a protective factor. Right? Sometimes we think, oh, everyone has it all together, or I can't ask the dumb questions, and that's not true. And by being in community, you will see other women of various expertise having some struggles on this walk, right? Whether it's struggles with their internal conversation or struggles with the systems and the know-how and that kind of stuff. So nobody has it all together. I don't even have it all together, right? And we can support each other emotionally, right? Helping folks maybe do something technically on this walk. So that's my 4-step process to you becoming a rockstar CEO. And I provide all that in a program called the Black Woman CEO Profit School. So what do you all think about that 4-step system? Is that something that you think you need, right? The state of mind, a strategy, systems, and support. And my whole thing with the Black Woman CEO Profit School is that I'm taking you from pain, this pain of not having consistent results, to profits. Right? You may have, who here has been in masterminds and courses? Just raise your hand if you've been in masterminds or group coaching, even if you've done private coaching. One thing that no one guarantees, right? Because you can't guarantee someone's going to make a certain amount of money. But I have had friends who have gone through, who have spent like $30K in coaching, and they haven't made any money back. They haven't made any money back. And that's a problem for me. That is a real problem for me. So one of the guarantees that are in my program is that I will help you get your next or first paid coaching client. And we do that through a profit planning session. So that's actually a bonus that I give people when they sign up for the Black Women CEO Profit School. And my whole thing is not just profits in the traditional sense. It's me helping through the Profit School. I help you to see all the ways that you're an asset and all the values and profits that are present in your life. And the whole thing is to master yourself so you master your business. Someone said, raise hand, that's me. I have invested in several coaches. Yes. And I'm not saying that's not a critique, but there's something I've seen as a trend. And I said, I really want people to get paid. I know I want to get paid, right? And as we shared today, it's a self-worth conversation. Some of it's a know-how conversation. So the Black Women CEO Profit School takes you through the 4-step process that I just talked about. We do it in community. And we go through a number of things. And another place that makes my program different, this group program, is that I give you clear deliverables. I know you educated Black lady. Yes, I'm talking to you, right? You need someone to tell you what to do. So this program, I give you clear deliverables so that you can get the results that you want. It's not figuring stuff out or like the generals fill out a worksheet. It's okay, well, in the 3rd month, we're going to be writing a blog post every week, right? So I get you clear deliverables to try some things out so that you can hone in on your strategy. Right. So that's the Black Women CEO Profit School. Now, so this is my invitation, right? I'm making the ask now. This is me teaching by example. If you're interested in finding out more about the Black Women CEO Profit School, we're opening up the class. We have a class that's in it, and we're opening up doors for the new class. I'll be happy to share more with you to see if it's a fit for you. So in the title here, there's a link to speak with Quanisha at theconfidentceo.com. And what you can do is apply for a 30-minute Confident CEO strategy session. Now, the strategy sessions in themselves are valuable, right? I actually might start charging for them. So I suggest you get them in now if you're interested. Where I help you get clarity and figuring out where are the holes in those 4-step systems, where are some of the holes for you, right? And why you're not getting consistent income or showing up consistently for your business. And I give you some suggestions on that. So the strategy session itself, you leave with the understanding of your best next steps. And then I recommend, whether or not I feel that you would be a match for the Black Women CEO Profit School. It's by invitation only. So there's no website for you to go to sign up for it. It's by invitation only. And you and I decide if we want to co-create together on this path of you becoming a rock star Black woman CEO through this program. So if everything I said today, we talked about the power of your story, I shared with you the aspects of the program. If you're interested in that and you see that and you want to explore it as your best next step, go to theconfidenceceo.com. Apply for a strategy session. And I don't know if you were on this call, so I'll probably just go ahead and, there's really no let me evaluate your application. Fill it out, right? So even if you don't have answers to some questions, I know sometimes the application seems intimidating because it's like, oh, it's asking me about a website. I don't have a website. That's okay. That is totally okay. If you haven't generated money in your business, you have your income, but if you're not generating money, that's okay. Just complete it so that I can connect with you so you and I can have a conversation to see if the Profit School is one of your best next steps. So there's the group program, and I'll tell you the pricing right now. But I don't want this to be a pricing issue for you, right? Because there's payment plans and there's ways for us to figure out how it could work for you. And I can help you think through some ways that you can finance it. There's different ways, and I have a whole nother video on it, investing in yourself and how. But there's different ways you can finance your dream, and I can share some of that with you. So if you're open to exploring that, and not just for working with me, but just doing this business in general, like this business thing, I'm happy to have that conversation with you. So the investment for the Profit School is $997. And if you want to work with me privately, in addition to, because we do 2 group calls a month, and you'll get access to 12 weeks of lessons that takes you through the 4-step system that I talked about and the deliverables. So that's $997. But if you want to work with me privately, there is an option for you to get some individual coaching in there. And that investment is $1597. So I can suggest which one might be the best avenue, depending on where you are in your entrepreneurship journey. But I have women who are at various different levels of entrepreneurship who are in the group program, who are loving the group program, who are getting results in the group program. Right. One of my clients in January, from doing her profit planning session and the Profit School lessons, generated $2,000 from a challenge that she did. And she was in masterminds, all these things. She's been in business for 2 years, hadn't made any money before that. She generated $2,000 through a $37 challenge, which she was selling for $27. We came up for as a program, as a promo. She made $2,000, and then she made another $3,000 just in January. She's generated more since then, but she made $3,000 because then she got private folks to sign up for her mastermind from folks who sign up for the challenge, right? So imagine if you could make $5,000 within the next 30 days, right? So those are the results that I can help people get. Does everyone get them? No, it depends on, one, the power of you, your story, how you're showing up, are you doing the work, right? How are we connecting with your ideal client? So there's a number of steps you have to take, but I know that I can help you go from pain to profits. I stand firmly in that belief. So if you would like support with that, go over to Speak with Quanisha at theconfidenceceo.com. It will take you directly to the Confident CEO strategy session application. And I will be reviewing them today so that you can explore if this is your best next step. Okay, so any questions about the Black Women CEO Profit School or anything that we discussed today? So let's open for a Q&A. So see, folks are still here. Yay. And the baby's sleeping. Yay. What questions do I have? And let me see. I know Carla had a question. So Carla had a question from our pre-session. She said, knowing when and how much to share. So she wanted to know, how do you know when and how much to share? That really is a gauge. Like, I don't believe in the TMI because I feel that those who are uniquely here for me will appreciate everything that I share. So the only caveat to that is that first step that I shared in the 3 steps to having more confidence so that you stand powerfully in your story is that try not to share what you haven't healed from, because you might be doing a disservice, or it might come off as like rough, or it doesn't get shared in service to other people where you're sharing like the lessons from it. That is when I say it's not so much you're sharing too much, is that you might not be sharing that at the right time. But how much and all that, I would say let your spirit guide you, right? See how your audience is connecting with it. Are people shaking their heads? And those kind of pieces. Like, I don't really feel like you can overshare. Like, I actually had someone when I started my business, because of people's discomfort around suicide, like the topic of suicide and Black women and mental health. They were like, "Ooh, the video," because I did a big welcome video with the Black Woman Rise where I shared that. In the video, they were like, "Oh, that made me feel uncomfortable. I don't know if you should be sharing that with people." I was like, "Well, you feel that way," but then I have 40 women who sent me emails saying they want to talk to me, and they shared different aspects of their story that resonated with them about not showing up for themselves or having mental health. So I was like, that's not my problem. That's your problem. You feel uncomfortable, right, around this. And I'm going to honor that, right? So maybe you shouldn't watch my videos, right? This is not for you then, because I'm going to tell that aspect of my story. At the time, I told it more because it resonated. Well, not resonated. It was in service of the Black Woman Rise, like really taking charge of your life, right? That story was the foundation of that. So there might be people who feel it's overshare, but they're not your ideal client. They're not your ideal client. That's all. So you said I tend to just fill out the room, right? And like I did on Friday, even though there was chaos happening and I was messing up my intro and my practice, I prayed. I said, God, let the right words come. Let me say what people need to hear. Even I prayed before this earlier today, right? I have an outline, I have some notes and things I wanted to share, but I said, God, just let it come. Right. I know I just made an invitation if you want to explore the Prophet School, but I didn't even decide that I was going to make that invitation. I was like, should I make a formal call to action? Should I tell them about the Prophet School? Should I tell them about Mind Your Business? And I was like, you know what? I'm opening the doors. I know the women who are here showing up might want some support on next steps. So I'm going to talk about the Prophet School because that's where you get the most of me at, right? If you really want to work with me, if you really want to know what I know, right? The formal PowerPoints as well as the coaching, that's the best way to do that. So my heart said, go ahead, do it, right? And so someone who's listening to this now or later appreciated that. Is everybody who watched going to go and apply to talk to me and explore the Prophet School? Not necessarily. Or this might be in service of you later. You might say, all right, well, maybe I'll connect with Quanisha later on it, right? But right now we're opening the door. So don't wait till later if you want to explore it. Have the conversation now so we can see if it's a fit. And it said how to share. I think she said how to prepare what I share. So once again, you can go and connect with yourself and your intuition and ask. One of my mentors just gave me this really great question to ask yourself, what does my, and what's your ideal client in mind? Some people name their ideal client. But you can say, what does my ideal client need to hear right now? What does she need to hear in talking about the power of your story? Right? And then write what comes to you. And that is your outline for your talk, right? So it could be, what story do I need to share? What is the graphic that I need to create right now? What is it that my community member and my potential client needs to hear in service of whatever you help people with? So I hope that answered your question. So someone said, I'm open to financing my dream. Yeah, there's so many ways. And I have a video on that. So I'll share it. The link is, because I have it on YouTube, and I'll share this on YouTube in all its glory of my son being crazy. So that people have that, but I'll put the link to it. But if you want to talk one-on-one about, how I did it, how I paid for my masterminds and even got my business to the point where it covered my investments. But sometimes that initial investment, we got to get creative, right? On maternity leave, I took money out of my IRA to support me while I was on maternity leave with the business income that I saved. To give me some cushion, right? So there's different ways to think about how to finance your dream so that you can invest in yourself, right? So that you can show up in your business and get to where you want to go. Business does require capital. So there's some different ways to think about that. And if you know you need to invest in your skill set and in healing and the 4-step process that I talked about, I'm happy to share how to do that. So that's why I shared what the investment was. And I'm happy to help you think about that, because sometimes we think things are too expensive for us. And then when we have a conversation, you're like, oh, wait, I do have access to money, or I just got to move some things around. Like there's these internal conversations that we need to have. So folks said, thank you. Oh, yay, Carla, I'm glad you're still there. I know you was on a walk, so I wasn't sure if you were one of the viewers left. So any other questions about the power of your story or about the Black Women CEO Prophet School? Because we can I have a coaching call coming up, but definitely can dedicate at least like 5 more minutes to us touching base on that. Yeah, okay. I wanted to make sure it was at 2:45 and not like 2:15. Any other questions? And if you have more personal questions, the best thing to do is to go to the Speak with Quanisha at theconfidentceo.com, complete the strategy session application. And then you and I can have a one-on-one to see kind of where you are in your business, what would be your clear next steps. And if I feel that, you're someone I want to work with, because I hope you're considering me, I can definitely tell you more about the Black Women CEO Profit School, my approach to coaching, the holes that might be in your business and the results I think I can help you get. So, yeah. All right. Well, I don't see any questions coming up. So I do want to close sharing this, which is, oh, it went away. I had it open before. Let me pull up this quote that I wanted to share with you. It's by Marianne Williamson, and I'm sure you all have heard it before. And it's called Our Deepest Fear. Our Deepest Fear. So our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we consciously give others permission to do the same. I'm going to read that again. As we let our own light shine, so as you stand powerfully in your story, right, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So if you are dedicated to making a difference and you are dedicated to transforming people's lives through the way that you uniquely do it, whatever your product or service is, you have to show up. You have to show up, right? You alone are enough. You are a child of God. But by you showing up, you unconsciously allow others to do the same. So remember this, power is the ability to create your own reality. Power is the ability to create your own reality. So this is Quanisha Green signing off, and I'll talk to you next time. Have a good one. Bye.